Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Qur'an, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. Indeed, we have revealed this remembrance, which is the Qur'an, and we are most surely going to guard it against any corruption, changes, or modification. This promise was made in Qur'an 1450 years back, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and power and strength, not a single letter, not a single word, not a single passage of the Qur'an was altered. And this will continue till the day of judgment. Obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can preserve it without the means of anyone, but He still chose two major preservation methods with the people. One is the memorization of the Qur'an, and one is writing down of the Qur'an. And as you know, today more than 100 million people, Muslims, memorize the entire Qur'an from Surah Al-Fatiha to Surah An-Nas. And this is the great miracle of Qur'an. Even the small kids who don't understand Arabic, they memorize the Qur'an. But I'm going to tell you a quick story about the memorization part and also the writing part of the Qur'an. You know, at the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as the Qur'an was revealed, and the revelation, the chronological revelation is not the same as the compilation. So as they were revealed, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam put and tell the companions to put which ayah or which passage or which surah after which surah or which passage or which ayah. So the sequence of the compilation was maintained right at the very beginning of being revealed. But many of the companions, they memorized the Qur'an, and they had written down bits and pieces, you know, in different parts of their life as they were listening to the revelation. In fact, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also assigned a group of people to write down as the Qur'an was being revealed. So at the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he passed away, the only form of revelation of Qur'an was memorization by the Sahaba, by many of the Sahabas, and also in the written form, but not in the form of one book. Not all of them were compiled together in the form of one book. But they used to know the sequence of compilation. One incident happened at the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and this I can relate it, how the person was blessed and how he was also made part of the preservation of the writing of the Qur'an. So Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in the market and he bought an animal from a person. And at that time he did not have the money with him, so he asked the person, can you follow me to my house so that when I go to my house I will give you the money. They already made a contract. It was of course at the time a verbal contract, but it was a binding contract. So as the person was following Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to his house, there were people on the side of the road and they said, oh, are you going to sell the animal? And the guy thought, why don't I test it out? Maybe I'll get a higher price. So he said, yes. And they offered a price that was higher than what was offered by Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he cried from behind. He said, oh Prophet of Allah, are you going to buy the animal or should I sell it to the other people? And Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was surprised. He said, you cannot sell it to the other people. We already have a contract. And the person said, oh Prophet of Allah, do you have a witness? And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was shocked. He was asked for a witness. And he said, I don't have a witness because when we made the contract verbally, there was no one with us. How can I have a witness? So as this conversation was going on, there were some people around them. And Khuzayma ibn Thabit, he raised his hand. He said, oh Prophet of Allah, I am the witness that you made a contract with this person to purchase the animal. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was shocked. He said, oh Khuzayma, how can you be a witness while you were not there? He said, oh Prophet of Allah, when I uttered my shahada, when I said ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I knew that whatever comes out of your blessed tongue is nothing but truth. You are the most truthful and you are the most trustworthy. So if you have said you have made a contract with him, you have made a contract with him, and I witness to that. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave him such an accolade. He said, "O Khuzayma, you are dhu shahadatain. One witness from you will be considered as two." Subhanallah. That was his level. That was his honor. Now fast forward at the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, when he was the Khalifa, there were a few incidents happened, and many of the huffaz, the memorizers of Qur'an, they died in battles. And Umar al-Khattab came and he said, "O Khalifa, if you do not compile the Qur'an in the form of a book right now, then I'm afraid that the huffaz will be killed and the Qur'an will be lost." And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said, "Oh Umar, how can I compile the Qur'an when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself did not do it? I cannot." And Umar al-Khattab kept on insisting until Abu Bakr was convinced that this is the right choice. So he assigned Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anh to perform the job, head of the committee. Make a committee and compile the Qur'an and write them down in the form of one single document. Zayd ibn Thabit and his group, they agreed that for every ayah they will find two people who have written down the Qur'an. Many of those Sahabas already memorized, but he was not accepting from memory. He would be looking at the writing down of the Qur'an as well, and for every ayah, two witnesses. So it was a daunting task. Ultimately, when they compiled the Qur'an, there was one ayah, or there were two ayatain actually, that did not have witness. So one person came and said, "O Zayd ibn Thabit, I am the witness that these two ayat were revealed in front of me and I have them written down." Guess who that person was? It was Khuzayma ibn Thabit. And guess what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told about him? That his one witness will be counted as two. So even though those two ayat had one physical witness, they really had two witnesses, because the witness was Khuzayma ibn Thabit. What are these two ayat? These two ayah are the last two ayah of Surah Tawbah. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ وَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَهُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ. Subhanallah. This is how the entire Qur'an got compiled, by Zayd ibn Thabit's effort and by the effort of other people around him, including Khuzayma bin Thabit. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him such a high position, because every time there's a compilation of Qur'an, there is an input of Khuzayma in it. This is the Qur'an that was given by Abu Bakr to Hafsa radiallahu anha. It was known as the Mus'haf of Hafsa. He gave it to Uthman radiallahu anhu, and Uthman radiallahu anhu, taking this Qur'an, there was copying of this Qur'an and spreading out this Qur'an throughout the Khilafah at that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will preserve his book. The book will be preserved regardless of what happens to the Muslims. In the history of Islam, you see in the Qur'an how many messengers have been killed by the Bani Israel, but the message cannot be killed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَاللَّهُ مُتِمُّ نُورِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ. That they will try to extinguish the fire, the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the blow of their mouth, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill his promise. The light will be completed, even though it is destructive and detested and hated by the people of no faith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us Ahlul Qur'an, the people of the Qur'an, because the Qur'an will come on the day of judgment as shafi, as intercession for the believers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us in this blessed month. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.